2, 1. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming down. This is awesome.
Of course.
So we'll start with what's right in front of me. These two are, I'm like afraid to bend.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
These are gorgeous, by the way. If you can find these, get these. These are gorgeous. So
Thank you.
please. So I saw you originally on the April Fools, and I love what you guys were talking about when it came. I mean, the whole episode was hilarious, but like the Silk Project and holy shit. And everything you're doing, and you have a killer website. I saw a lot of videos and pictures from your second event that you did, and that looked amazing, like the Halloween themed one.
The Blood Bash?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that looked awesome. So what is this? What is the Silk Project? Because I like that you guys made a point to say it's not just a magazine or a fashion brand. Like it's a project.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty much whatever I make it to be. Like if whatever I want in my head that I'm thinking. So basically, like if I want to make it a clothing brand, I can. If I want to do a fashion show, I can. It's pretty much my oyster. So like I can really do whatever I want with it, as far as like, being like with the community,
Yeah.
Like I want to do like events, I want to do fashion shows, I want to do short films, which we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yes.
But
I was in film school, so I'd love to.
oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah. I pretty much started the Silk Project. I started shooting it like around November 2020. That's when I came up with the idea. And then I finally published it and then threw the event just this past year in 2022.
That's awesome. So,
yeah.
what made you want to start it? Like,
I wanted full control of my pictures and where they were taken, who was going to take them. And I really just, the first one is woman based. So my photographer, Aubrey Sparks, shout out to Aubrey. She shot the whole first issue and she was, she's dope to work with. Such a dope spirit. And, yeah, super welcoming. So I wanted to really focus on that and make my models and everybody that was featured in the magazine feel really comfortable. So I focused on woman-based and woman-owned because, women know how to make other women feel comfortable. So
that's awesome. So were you already doing like modeling and fashion-based stuff beforehand?
Yeah, pretty much. I started modeling actually for Aubrey, like beginning of the pandemic, just to help her grow her portfolio. And then, eventually I was like, what am I going to do with these pictures? They're going to go on Instagram. People are going to forget about them. And then what? Like I wanted something to hold in your hand. I wanted it to be like tangible, something you can like literally have on your table and people will be like, oh, like, what is this?
That's awesome.
So,
well, physical media is dying, like
yes.
actively. And because of, smartphones and social media, because everything is so based on the internet and so based in the cloud format that the need for physical media is dying. And I feel like people our age that are doing things like you are to keep that medium alive, that's super important.
Yeah.
And hopefully it inspires people younger than us to not exactly just abandon physical media. So that's sick.
For sure. Someone say it's like a dying art, but I feel like our generation, like in the art scene, especially here, is like pushing towards that resistance. Like, like not everything needs to be online because it kind of ruins like the genuine connection that you make with people. I would say, like the internet kind of kills that.
Yeah.
So
we're seeing that with stuff like Twitter. Like,
yeah,
that's the worst place to interact with people.
You
Twitter.
think so? I love Twitter, honestly. Twitter's awful, but like it's so funny.
Oh no, yeah, it's hilarious, but I find it like, because social media, it obviously, like social media without that, this podcast wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have gotten into contact. So that's like the positive side of it. But there's a tons of negative, and it does like disconnect people, and it does kind of put a barrier in between. Like more natural connections, I guess.
Yeah, people really just don't know how to act anymore. That's what it really is. Sometimes they really don't. So I like to put together essentially release parties to launch my magazine.
If you want to come a little closer to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I like to throw release parties to launch my magazine, and that essentially brings like a bunch of people in, and like it's not just geared towards like a specific audience. It's really geared towards anyone who has appreciation for art.
That's awesome.
So
walk me through what the first event look like the planning and then how it actually turned out?
Oh, wow.
How
So
did that go?
it was honestly really insane because that had been my very first event, like planning it. And it happened at the power plant. Shout out to Juan. And I had like about like 200, maybe like 250 people in there. It was packed. I had like a fashion show featuring local designers. A lot of people modeled for me that like hadn't modeled before. I pretty much put out a model call, which I do, like I'm gonna keep continuing to do, to give people the opportunity who haven't modeled to model or like walk a runway. And it was really dope. A lot of people loved it. And what else did I have? I had a food truck. I had Juicy J's come by. That was like his grand opening as well. And then Flora, she designed in it. Laurel designed in it. Jericho designed in it. Meta Jane. I think that was it in the first one.
Well, you had a pretty solid turnout for a first event. Yeah. It sounds like that's awesome.
Definitely. I think what really helps with that is just promoting it like face to face, you know, because like I like to meet everybody, you know, I like to network with a bunch of people. So like leading up to the event, I pretty much get to like choose who I get to invite to my events. But I feel like it's really important to do that marketing like face to face, because like I said, on Instagram, you just see it and then it disappears. But like if you have like something in your hand, people are like, oh, I'm gonna go to this, or like, oh, I remember that girl, like she introduced herself to me, you know. Like I really think it's important. Introductions are really important. And I do remember every single face that come to my events, and I greatly appreciate that too. Like shout out to everybody who's been to Silk Project 1 and to Silk Project 2.
I'm proud to announce that the podcast is now officially sponsored by the fine people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, this is some of the best chili you can get here in the state of New Mexico, and they are online as well as in stores. They can be found at Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, John Brooks, and Lowe's Corner Market. They have 3 amazing flavors that you see here, and they also have frozen green chili that you can get online. Go on over to the website, chopchilico.com, and get yourself some amazing chili today. Well, that's a good philosophy to have, and that's something that I found doing the podcast is, well, for one, Albuquerque is such a tight-knit, community-based city to live in, and I'm a big believer in, as we were talking about this last night, I went and sat down with a founder of a nonprofit here. And if you know, the idea that if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. And being able to go around and network like that and really anywhere, but especially here in Albuquerque, that's a skill. Because not a lot of people really want to do that anymore. Not a lot of people want to go face to face like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, I'd love for you to be a part of it, or I'd love for you to help me out in some sort of way. Mm-hmm. And I feel like having that skill and being able to present yourself well, that puts you ahead of so many people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That really like sets you apart. So what was like, when that was all wrapped up and said and done, what were like the biggest hurdles that you found that like, not necessarily got in your way, but like hurdles you overcame, like, okay, this is how I can fix that for next time, or like mitigate that better. Did you find anything like that?
As far as like hiring people to like work with, yeah, that was like a hurdle, because I should have hired like a few more people for my first event, because I pretty much ran the whole thing. And yeah, I was running with my head cut off. If you had seen me at the first one, I mean, the second one too, if you saw me at the second one, head cut off, like, but I had hired staff for the second one. I hired the locations staff, and they were short staffed. Oh, so I was still running with my head cut off. But I mean, to work past that, I'm going to be hiring more people to help me coordinate or run the event.
Did you ever have like any because we talked about this beforehand, before we started seeing you're an event coordinator. Did you have any of that experience before, or is this like your first shot at putting something together like this?
No, I mean, yeah, honestly, this is like the first time I've ever done like thrown an event. So, holy shit. I mean, I feel like if you could set your mind to something, like you can do it, you know, like you can't have any little doubt, because it's like, you just have to be fully confident of who you are, what your craft is. And yeah, your audience will find you, like you were saying.
So again, when did the first one take place?
It took place May 28th, at the power plant.
And then how long was it from that one to your next one?
13 weeks. 13 to 14
shit.
weeks.
That's a quick turnaround, relatively.
Yeah, it was insane. Because after the first one, everybody was like, when are you coming out with the next one? When's the next event? And I'm like, whoa. So then I just started working like ASAP. And I was like, all right, well, this is when it's going to happen. Before I had my first event, I already knew that I wanted to have my second event at Electric Playhouse beforehand. So
I've been hearing a lot about that place. I've never been, but I've been hearing
really cool.
a lot about it.
No, yeah, they're super dope. They're really, really nice to work with too. Like they work really well with you, and they help you out in any kind of way. So I appreciate that. Patricia, she's like one of the event coordinators over there. She was helping me a lot, and like it. Yeah, I would definitely recommend that place. It's really cool.
So is it? So what is it? Is it like a bar? Is it like an event center? Is it a hybrid?
It's both. Yeah, it's pretty much like an interactive. I don't want to say like museum, but you can like play games in there. Yeah, like it's literally a playhouse. And they project like certain like graphics on there, and you kind of like can interact with them. So you wave your hand, and then like something moves with it, or another like image comes up. So I broadcasted or I projected like some of the images that were in Silk 2 on the screens, and I did like the interviews were shown in like one of the big rooms. It was like a big theater room.
Oh, sweet.
And so everybody had the chance to like go and look and walk around that place. But
that's awesome. So in comparison to the first one, how much bigger was the second? In scale and personnel, all that kind of stuff.
In scale, it was like 3 times bigger. In as far as like the audience, twice as big. So I had about like 450 people. Yeah, so it's only getting bigger and bigger, and like that's what I want to keep doing. Every time I have an event, I want it to be bigger and better, and like I want the details to be really fine, and yeah, more staff. That way I can network with people the way I want to, and not just run around with my head cut off.
So what's the do you have like the big picture, a big vision in your head for the way this is going, or are you kind of just like you're hitting the shorter milestones? So okay, so what's the big vision for this? Because like just my first impression is like you have a very like business minded for a better term, a mindset about this. Mm-hmm. So what's the plan going forward?
The plan going forward, so in 2024, I want to eventually, after I come out with Project 3 and Project 4 for this year, which is going to be a little long down the line, but in 2024, I want to do a tour and do events in other cities. But the bigger picture is to have everybody have a reason to come visit New Mexico.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to be that reason.
And that's why you're going to succeed here. Because, well, it's funny because a lot of the people that I talk to, whether they're actual like artists, like painters, or they're actresses, musicians especially, no matter what their goal is, at the center of it is they want to represent Albuquerque so well because of how much this city is hurting. Mm-hmm. So, because are you born and raised here?
I was born in California, raised here pretty much.
Okay, how long have you lived here for?
Like my whole life. I moved here when I was like 10, so
okay.
I've grown up here, yeah.
No, that's awesome. And like, so it's just like post-COVID, and again, like a lot of the like common denominators I found, like, it's like we're like, it's being led by people our age, is like we're going through this like renaissance of art.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely exploding. Like, have you guys, I don't imagine you have you gotten involved with the art walk?
I have. I actually I haven't had a booth at the art walk just because I don't really have any merch to sell. Like I have t-shirts, but like eventually I want like my own like hand personalized like things that I can sell, but I don't have any magazines anymore. All of them sold out, and I kind of like that. I like to keep that exclusivity.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I like to keep the exclusivity to where it's like, oh, like if you got one, you got one. If you didn't, like maybe wait for another drop.
Right.
But I am going to be dropping, I'm going to do some copies, a few copies of each at my next event. I am hosting an event with Better Since, and it's going to be at Sister Bar February 11th on a Saturday night. Yeah.
Is that going to be number 3, or is it's like a smaller event you're doing?
No, it's a smaller event I'm doing. I am trying to pack it out. So, I mean, if you guys can make it, it's going to be the place to be. A little pre-Valentine's Day pregame. But yeah, my friend, he's actually having like a release party. So we're going to be releasing that, and we're going to have vendors. There's going to be food, maybe some edibles, you know.
No, that's awesome. And like you said, we were talking a little bit earlier that your other jobs you have are very supportive of this.
Yeah.
What was that? Not negotiation, but like, what was that like, having them get on your side and be like, hey, yeah, we want to actually support you in what you're doing. We believe in this, because they became your sponsors.
Yeah. So actually, in the first, Por Vida has sponsored both of the magazines. In the first magazine, my friend Liz, she's on my marketing team. She had come across to Helm, who works at Por Vida. He's one of the owners, and he was just down to like sponsor the magazine. Like, I was just asking for sponsors, and he was just like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. And then he came to the event and he loved it. He was like, wow, this is dope. Like, I wish my brother would have came to see it. And yeah, he was just on board like immediately. So whenever I had started working there, this was before I started working at Por Vida. So wow. Then after, when I started working there, I was telling him about the second event, and I was hyping it up. I was like, this is the place to be. Like, you want to be there, you want to sponsor it. And like, they were just so on board with it, super supportive, didn't question anything I did. And they really helped me out a lot, like as far as like business aspects, like ticketing, and like, I really look up to Bell and Helm as far as how they run their business. Like, so they're really dope. And then I work at Indigo Cannabis Club, which is a dispensary in like the Valley. And they had seen the first Silk project. And actually Scott, who is one of the owners of Indigo, he did the sound for me at the first event.
Oh, neat.
And he was like telling my other manager, who also owns the dispensary, and he was like, yeah, like all the bad bitches come through. Like, he was pretty much just like, yeah, this is like the place to be. Like, you want to be a sponsor, you know?
Yeah. That's
and
so fucking hilarious.
They were just like, they were all about it and all supportive about it. Like, no one really questioned any of the ideas that I had. So like, that's always really comforting too. And like, whenever I can see like the excitement in other people, whenever I tell them about the project, like, that's like something I hold close to my heart. So no, it's like a feel good experience. Yeah. All around.
Well, I was going to say, like, so how did it feel like for your first event to see how many people showed up? Like, did it meet your expectations? Did it go a little higher? Like,
did it meet my expectations? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. 'Cause like, yes and no, I'm always going to expect more from my events, and like, more from me as an event coordinator and like a creative director. So I mean, as far as the turnout, it did meet my expectations, but I mean, there were also some things that like I could have worked more on. Like, I could have had like, I don't know, like an ice chest for like my desserts table. It's like the little things that I pay attention to that I'm like, shit, like I should have done that, or I should have like written like little cards for my VIP tables. I did it for the next event though, so it was cool.
Well, it's the little things like that build up to a bigger picture.
Right.
And that's what, not that I know anything about being a director of any kind. I've sat through like 2 classes. But like one of the main, objectives of being a director is not only having a vision, but knowing how to execute it down to the finest detail. And because if you do end up missing little parts, you miss enough of those, the whole thing's going to fall apart.
Right.
It's never by just these giant, if you're missing one big thing, if you don't have any food show up, well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any alcohol showed up when you advertised it, well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But having smaller details like that make the place feel more homely, more intimate, more like, more lively, and especially like in this city, more safe. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what, so down the line, you said you want to get into like producing like short films and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where did that interest come from? Has that always been something for you?
Yeah.
Or is that a newer thing?
It's always been an interest for me. I took a film class in college at UNM like a while ago. And like I've always just like have been drawn to film, like Moonlight is like one of my favorite movies. It's amazing, right?
That movie's fucking amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, no. That movie just like put
heartbreaking.
Oh, it's really, so sad.
It's a rough watch. I've only seen it once. Like, that's one of the movies, not to cut you off, but like that's one of the only movies that I've seen. It's like, that was a great movie.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it again anytime soon. I'll maybe watch that once every couple of years, maybe.
No, it's so sad, but it's so crazy because like the movie barely has like any dialogue, and then you watch it and it just makes you feel something. Like you don't have to say too much to make someone feel a type of way. So I mean, I've always wanted to do a short film, and this next project, I'm gonna be releasing a short film, but I can't give too many details about it. But let's just say it is gonna highlight the city.
That's awesome. Are you already? Because I'm not gonna. Again, I wouldn't expect you to give away like the details of it. But are you already like shooting it? Are you in post? Like where are you at?
So
right now?
I'm in pre-production, and I'm gonna be shooting next month, in the month of February.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Do you have like? Again, I wanna get as much detail about this as I can. I love talking about shit like this.
Yeah.
Like, how long is it gonna be?
It's good question.
Yeah.
Probably like 30 to 45 minutes. I want it to be long enough to keep people like locked in, but also like short enough for people to want more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you like when so you said you're in pre-production right now, do you do, because I know like, because I have a habit of like my favorite directors, I was always the nerdy little kid where I'd watch the movie on DVD, but I'd also watch the bonus features.
Yeah.
To see like the behind the scenes, like the interviews, like what they do. And I still do that.
Yeah.
So
that's
like
cool.
I know a lot of directors, they literally draw out everything they do to give a reference to their actors.
Yeah.
Right? Other directors like God, I think it was Jonah Hill who said it when he was working with Scorsese, where if they had an issue, or if they already had a planned out scene trying to figure out what it looked like, he would just sit in his chair for 30 seconds with his eyes closed and then wake up like a robot. And he's like, okay, like write it all
That's
off.
cool.
So where in that spectrum do you find yourself? Do you write out, draw out everything, or do you kind of just have it all in your head and you're able to articulate it to like, this is what I want?
I have it all in my head. I should.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with these projects too. It's like, it's so hard for me to like get it out, but like, it's mostly like, I just have a vision in my head and it's like, okay, I know I'm going to execute it. Like, this is how I'm going to do it. And then usually people can pick up on it pretty quickly. So
Well, again, that's a testament to being able to like articulate yourself properly and be able to explain what you actually want, rather than like, maybe we could try this. And it's like no frame of reference for the people working with you, because that's the fucking worst.
Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you want to do? And it's like, no, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah. Well, because people, especially in a project like that where it's so abstract, they need to be, like, lack of a better term, they need to be directed. Like, they need to get told what to do.
Exactly.
And if you don't have, like, intellect or vision aside, if you don't have the backbone to direct people, I mean, that's a real issue.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself going into directing the more you... Like, let's say this goes well, comes out more or less the way you like it, because you're going to nitpick it like crazy. But provided when it goes well, do you find yourself wanting to go down that road more? Like, are you liking the pre-production phase?
Honestly, I'm not too sure, but as far as like film direction, I don't know, but I do like to just direct people. I like to tell people what to do, and I like to make it look good. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That again, that's like one of the things that I kind of pulled out of that episode you did with the April Fools, was like, it's such a conglomerate of ideas that you want the project to be. It's not going to get hunkered down to one thing. Is there anything that maybe feels a little abstract now, but it's like, maybe we could do that, or maybe we could do this, that you're kind of tinkering with or toying with?
As far as like the plot, yeah, there's like a lot of things that because I have a few different ones, but some of them are just not sticking, you know?
Yeah. Well, not only just with like film direction, but like just projects within the Silk project that you could do in the future, like outside of film, outside of like the modeling and like the events. Are there like any like other ideas that you have for it, or are you kind of just like, you know what you have now, and it sounds like you're doing a lot. It sounds like you're doing a lot with it.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like modeling and fashion, I eventually want to throw a concert event, so
That'd be sick.
just look out for that.
That'd be fucking sick. So with the magazine itself, what is, because as I was flipping through it, it's gorgeous on the inside.
Thank you.
Like, it's, every page is unique. Seriously, like what?
Thank you.
Are you
That's
kidding?
That's at the art house.
So what's like the philosophy in mapping all this out? Like, how do you sit down and do it? Like, what's your thought process?
So it's kind of funny, but I really relate the Silk project to whatever is going on my personal life. So I got my heart broken, you know, like anybody else does. And then you get a little sad and then you get like a burst of creativity, right? So this one is surrounding the topic about love. So it has both of my magazines the first volume is separated into 3 different sections. So the first one is separated into love, and then create and dominate. So love is like, what does love mean to you? Like, what are your experiences around love? And then create, what are you creating for yourself? And then dominate, how are you coming into your own power? So this one was more of like a journal entry type. So everybody who was in the magazine, I pretty much did my own like entries, like personalized entries for everybody. So they were like, I wasn't asking everybody the same questions. And they just wrote me like a little journal entry. And then, it's kind of like a little scrapbook. But I really wanted this one was like more of like, if I was like 15, you know, and I was like going through something and I came across this magazine and like I needed some advice on like, you know, self-work or like self-love, what would I want to read?
Interesting. So coming into your own power, what does that mean like for you specifically?
Coming into my own power, doing whatever you want, you know, like not letting anybody tell you like what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, you know, not being confined, but also like, coming into your own power. What does that feel like to you? For me, coming into my own power was finally releasing the magazine, because I had been modeling, you know, people were like, oh, like your little Instagram model. But I'm like, no, like I do more, you know.
I have a plan.
Yeah, I'm going to do something with these pictures, you know. So that was like coming into power for me. What are you creating for your own life? I wanted to create a community of people who wanted just to be on the same page with me, create the same things that I want to create, you know, or as far as like community wise, create a community that can work together and like uplift each other. And that's what I did.
Well, and you bring up, there's a lot to go into with that, but you in the very beginning we kind of made a joke about it, but you know, being like an Instagram model, like that's kind of like the thing now for a lot of women. Being in the space that you're in, what do you think of just the average Instagram like influencer? Like what does it even mean to be an influencer? Is it something people should aspire to? Like what's your thoughts behind that?
An Instagram influencer.
I just find it interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to become an Instagram influencer, do it. You know, like by all means, like get that bag, do those advertisements, do your little Target advertisements, like brush your teeth, like do something, you know. I mean, I don't think that a lot of, I don't want to knock Instagram influencers, but I feel like some aren't really targeted. Like they don't really have like a underlining message, you know? And like my message is pretty much to, it's really for the youth. Like I really want young creatives to not be afraid to step into the creative world and be like, hey, like I can make a living off of doing art, you know? So, but as far as like Instagram models or Instagram influencers, I mean, I don't know.
Well, the reason I ask is it's such a new thing. Like, like social media itself is new. It's been around for like 20 years, give or take, right? It's a blink of an eye for, just the like span of the human race. Like it's been around for that long. And then the idea that you can get, again, like you said, you can get your sponsorships, you can do like Target ads, or you can get the millions of different like companies that only advertise on social media, and then get a stupid, or like be like a TikTok person,
oh my gosh,
whatever the fuck they call them. I'm sorry, I don't like TikTok. I think it's a fucking joke. But then like I know people that make their living off of it.
Yeah, it's
like,
insane.
How?
You just have to create content like all the time. That social media is like one of the hardest things too. So it's like kudos to those people. Honestly, I would say like Instagram influencers don't run their page. They don't have any jurisdiction running their page.
Right.
They have a PR team, they have a manager,
Yes.
and they're like, you can post this, you can't post this, delete this. And some people really need that. But
Well, like we were talking about earlier, people need direction.
yes.
And I would imagine a lot of these people are under agencies or under these people in the background that you don't really see, you don't hear about, but they're the ones that are kind of, because it's
Doing the
it's
puppet
like
strings,
how
yeah.
people just explode, and then it's like, what else do you do? Is this
Yeah.
really it? No way. I don't know. I just find it interesting. But then, again, the impression that I get is if you had to choose between, I guess like going like instantly viral, but then having the caveat of you are being managed, or you're going to keep growing your organic base, you're going to keep working the way you're working, but then have complete creative control. You choose option B, right?
All the way. I still choose it. I'm like, yeah, if I just want full control of like, my brand, and how it's going to be represented. So I'm going to keep that.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. And I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And that's like, because I haven't ran into a whole lot of issues doing this. The one I ran into was I got 2 videos deleted off of YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Because we talked about COVID. And yeah, we talked about COVID, and we literally just mentioned a doctor who had said that the vaccines weren't good for you because we didn't know what they were going to cause. And I just kept getting hit with these red flags, and I almost got the page deleted. And I was
The
like,
Karens.
what the fuck
That's
is going
crazy.
on? Yeah.
That's crazy that they don't want you to talk about it because it's something that's so monumental that happened
Yes.
in the world.
Well,
Like
exactly. And it was I don't think we got reported by anybody, because I don't think there, especially at the time, I don't have a large enough audience to like actually think, oh, there are people who care enough to report me. I think it was YouTube's AI that did it personally, which is super fucking sketchy.
I hate AI.
Yeah.
I hate AI models, AI artists, just all of AI. Like
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Thank you for reminding me. There's been a huge explosion in AI art, and I'm seeing little by little there's more people commenting on it in the negative, being like, this is taking away from actual artists, this is taking away from people who are actually like working at the craft, trying it. Like, do you agree with that? Like,
I
that AI is kind of
I
being
do.
detracting from it?
So whenever people were posting those like selfies, what the AI does is it takes pretty much like every artwork, it like goes into like, right, the Google system, pretty much Google's art, or say it's Google. I don't know where they get these images from, but like it's essentially their version of like recreating it. So it takes all these artists who have made these pieces of art and they make it into their own.
Oh, Jesus.
But it's like the AI only knows all this information if you give it to them.
Right.
So it's like a lot of people are down to give them that information, and it's so sketchy. Like, that's why I haven't done it, because it's like, if you're going to use my face, what if you use my voice, People don't read the terms and conditions, and I know they fucking don't, because I'm not going to read them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're not reading the terms and conditions, what are they going to do with your picture? It says that it goes in the cloud for 24 hours and then it deletes. But
Fuck off.
in that 24 hours,
Yeah.
you're not guaranteed any sort of security. You sign pretty much, I'm getting all into it,
No,
but
do
I'm
it.
like, I'm like, what if you're signing your life away? What if the government can come back and is like using your face and your voice and your signature to be like, oh yeah, this person did this and this and that, and I have their signature.
See, and I was going, so the first thing that deterred me, because I thought about all that too, like in the afterthought, but I was going to do it, and I fucking found 10 stupid pictures of me, whatever, and then it was like, pay $8, like, $8? But I can go to Bob's Burgers for $2 more and get a full meal. Get fucked, and I deleted it, right?
Yeah.
But I thought about it more, and because when I really got, like, notice to that, or like, I really started paying attention to stuff like that was with TikTok, actually. Because do you know what the terms and conditions for TikTok?
No.
So
I'm scared.
So as of last year, 2021, middle of 2021, they updated the terms and conditions, and so we know now that TikTok is based out of China. It's a China-based company and programming, like software company, whatever, and that's why Trump, towards the end of his presidency, was trying to ban it for America.
Okay.
And they
Makes
completely
sense.
blocked it because they were like, "Fuck you on our social media." And he's like, and I don't think it was him. I think it was his like administration.
Right.
They're like, "This is not a battle we're gonna win, and we're just not gonna push it." Well, in the terms and conditions for TikTok, there's a whole slew of shit that it does, but the major ones is it tracks your keystrokes. So the way that you type, the rhythm that you type, it tracks that. It does track your voice. And then if your iPhone or your smartphone, I don't know if Android uses it. I use iPhone, but if you have a smartphone that does the facial scan, the Face ID, it captures that.
Oh my gosh.
It captures all of your web history, regardless if you deleted it or not.
What?
All
This
your
is
cookies
crazy.
and stuff like that. And then so the big one is, so let's say, because one of my roommates fucking loves TikTok. That's all the motherfucker does.
Yeah.
And I've given him shit for it. But so when he has TikTok and he's already obviously uses it all day, he connects to the Wi-Fi. So not only does TikTok take data from your phone, it now gets into your Wi-Fi and it takes data from every device hooked into your Wi-Fi.
What?
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yes, and you have to agree to that whenever you start
To use
using the service.
That's insane.
Yes. Yeah, it's fucking scary. And
I had no idea.
when there's an interview that went around from I think the middle of last year, and it was of Elon Musk, and they were asking him at a conference like, "What are you more scared of, nuclear weapons or AI?" Because this is when the Ukraine conflict really started kicking up, and like, oh, this might actually become a thing. And he goes, "Oh, AI, hands down, we can stop nukes. Once you have AI going, you can't stop AI." That scares me. And then when one of the richest men in the world that owns rocket ships, Tesla, the Boring Company, if you've ever heard of that. That's a crazy company that he does. Have you heard of that?
No.
So the Boring Company, what he wants to do is he wants to create underground like super subways.
Oh,
That would take you
okay.
from like, I think
Across the sea?
Well, eventually, yeah, but they're trying it right now in California, where it would take you from basically the border to San Francisco in an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So when that guy is saying AI is the worst, that's where I kind of draw the line.
Well, I've seen them have conversations, and that's pretty sketchy too.
Oh, did you see that one on Fallon? Where she was like, oh, the AI beat Fallon in tic-tac-toe.
Really?
Yeah, she beats him in tic-tac-toe. And then it makes a joke. The AI goes, "This is my first step in world domination. Ha ha."
That's so scary. That is literally so scary. What the fuck? No, yeah, AI freaks me out for sure. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, no, it's scary. And then I actually, a couple nights ago, I went and watched that new movie, Megan.
How was that?
It's fucking good. It's actually really
Yeah.
good. Kind of corny.
Yeah.
Kind of stupid, but it's funny because it's actually technology that we're working on right now. Well, not like the common people, obviously, but like it's tech that's being used right now or
Right.
otherwise developed. Because what the little like toy thing does is it does like facial scans and
Yeah.
it like notices your emotions, it notices your blood pressure, how you're feeling, your reactions, your speech patterns, a lot like fucking TikTok.
Yeah.
And I was just watching it thinking, this is like our future in 10 to 15 years.
That's insane. That's so scary to think about.
Yeah. But on the other hand, for TikTok, because I'd love to get your input on this because of what you would email me back. TikTok allows a lot of people to go viral. And recently, the big one has been Andrew Tate, which has been crazy how quickly he got viral. And then obviously now he's arrested. When the name Andrew Tate is brought up, what do you think of him? Like, what do you think of a guy like that?
Honestly, not much. I didn't really know much about him until he got arrested.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, because wasn't he like a fighter or something?
Yeah, he was a kickboxer, and then he ran like a webcam company for a bit, I think. And then he just went super viral last year. Because because I'll admit it, I like 90% of what he has to say. He has some pretty fucking out there shit that I don't agree with. That shit men own their wives, like that's a bit much. Or it was something about like a woman, like women shouldn't be pilots or some shit. I don't know. It's really just like out of the woodworks, like out of left field, just stupid shit. But then yeah, he got arrested recently on like again like human trafficking charges and shit like that, which is weird.
That's awful. Sorry for those women, or those people, you know, because not only women can get sex trafficked, men can too. Yeah. But I don't really have a comment on that except for he's an awful person, you know, and
it's better that you probably didn't pay attention to all that shit, to be honest. Like, 'cause again, like there's a lot of like self-development shit that he talks about, like in the last couple of months, where it's like one of the things that he said was the people that consistently, whether it's go to the gym or just work on themselves, regardless of how they feel, compared to those who do it only when they feel like it, like these people are gonna win. Like I agree with that. Right.
Because consistency.
Exactly, and obviously you know that from what you've been doing. But then obviously the fucking crazy shit that he's getting into now.
Yeah, that's insane.
But how often do you find yourself working on the Silk project?
I mean, it stays on my mind all the time. Yeah. So, but as far as like releasing a publication, biannually.
No shit.
Yeah.
And how do I word this? How much work went into creating the first one, for instance?
Well, I started shooting pictures November 2020, and then that whole 2021 year, I kind of messed around and life gets ahead of you. Yeah. And then I tried to do everything by myself. I really tried. And then I was like, okay, I need a graphic designer. I can't fucking do this. It's Adobe is its own world. So don't even get started. Yeah. It's insane. It's its own language, and Photoshop too. But I asked this guy, Aldrin Banglin. He's on Instagram. He owns Advent Studios. He did the graphic design for both of the magazines. Okay. And yeah, he's super dope, very talented graphic design artist. But I pretty much laid out how I want everything, and he cleans it up, flips it, makes it look perfect.
Yeah, these came out phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And you said the first one, I definitely want to talk about the second one, but you said the first one came out of a lot of heartbreak. The theme of it is very, it reads very much like a scrapbook or a notebook. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a little earlier that you wanted to really go to a younger audience. Mm-hmm. We're living in a time now where a lot of gender roles are getting switched around, almost dissolved. Mm-hmm. The way that people even approach relationships, a lot of people just avoid them altogether. It's a whole fucking, so for through the experiences that you've had and putting all this stuff together, what would you want a younger girl that's reading this to kind of pull out of it?
I would want them to get out of it, protect yourself, but also date, have fun, get your heart broken, learn something.
What's something you've learned from a heartbreak that has what I guess probably motivated you to go do this, but
what was the question again? One more time?
What are the major what's some major stuff that you've pulled out? Because I think when you're in the right mindset, when you go through a breakup, which is, to be quite honest, I'm going through right now, when you go through a breakup, you the best mindset is to learn from it. Mm-hmm. Whether you were in the right, whether you were in the wrong, whether it's a mixture of both, that's something I'm learning is regardless of what happened, it does take two. Right. Unless you have the extreme examples where someone was a straight up abuser and mm-hmm. The crazy cases you hear about with domestic abuse stuff. But generally speaking, it takes two people to make a relationship work and fail. Right. So are there any major lessons like that you've learned and possibly that you've put into projects like this?
Honestly, I would say just communicate better with everyone around you. Don't let anyone try to influence your friends. Your friends are always going to be on your side and say, oh, fuck that guy, you know. But also, like, yeah, go fuck that guy. You know what I'm saying? Listen to them. But also at the same time, yeah, try not to let other people, like, influence you so much, you know. Like, I mean, let yourself feel what you have to feel, but also at the same time, know what's best for you, you know. And a lot of people, your friends are obviously going to be in your best interest. Hopefully. But I mean, yeah, hopefully.
I mean, I'll be real. I've dealt with a couple of fucking snakes.
Well, I mean, haven't we all?
Yeah. So maybe they always don't, but I've found it's all about refining the circle of people you have around you.
Exactly.
You don't need 20 people.
Yeah, you really don't.
You need like 3 or 4 people that you can go take down a country with.
Exactly.
Like, that's it. But because one thing I did want to ask you was like, what is like the term toxic? Like, what does that mean to you? Like being toxic or
being
stuff like
toxic. Oh God, I don't know. Honestly, I have a lot of toxic tendencies.
Self-awareness is very important.
And I mean, it adds a little fun, it adds a little spice. But is it appropriate all the time? No, you know. So I feel like there's a time and place for it. I try to be toxic sometimes jokingly, and a lot of the time some people take it like wrong, you know. So I feel like sometimes I try to get a reaction out of people.
A lot.
But
like while you're actively in a relationship.
I mean, people do it all the time, you know.
Oh, I'm sure. I am fucking sure.
But I mean, I don't really do anything like super toxic.
Well, right.
Like, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a toxic person, but I do have toxic tendencies from like past relationships, you know.
Yeah.
Some people just fuck you up like that.
Well, again, yeah, being self-aware, that's super important. And I mean, I think that's another like personally, that's another major lesson that I'm learning. Is like, I'm not gonna lie, I was the one in the wrong. And this one went bad. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, like what did I do? What led me? Like what were like, yeah, obviously like the last, I don't want to air out all my fucking problems because I promised her that I wouldn't. But you know, for the last 6 months it was a fucking war zone, but you can focus on that all you want, but it's like what led to that?
Yeah.
And what were the almost like the building blocks into what makes a bad relationship, and then contrast that to what makes a good one.
Yeah. I mean, is there any like bad relationships, you know?
Oh yeah, always. It seems like a lot. Oh yeah.
I feel like sometimes relationships don't start off that way, but I feel like you can't generalize them all to be bad.
No, I'm not saying every relationship is bad, obviously, but I think with a lesson I've learned now is like, and not necessarily from this last one, but just in general, is I feel like a lot of people do this. Like when you first meet someone, you're in that like honeymoon phase, the fucking brain chemicals are shooting through the roof.
For sure.
They can do no wrong, all this kind of stuff, but whether you recognize them or not, you almost willingly ignore a couple of red flags. Mm-hmm. Or it's like, oh, that's not a problem
all of
now.
them. You ignore all of them. They're all green.
Yeah, it's like, oh, no, that's fine. That's okay, whatever. And then like the best analogy that I've heard is when you do that in the beginning, but you never, if it actually bothers you a little bit, it's like, hey, maybe that wasn't the way they treated me there, or the way they said that, or like, what is that? Like, not necessarily if it's a bad thing, but like, maybe that wasn't, you know, maybe that's not how I would have worded it. But if it bothers you and you don't voice it, like you said, communication is super fucking important. Mm-hmm. If you don't voice it, it's almost like you're building this this wall between the two of you. Yeah. And then when it comes to major stuff, you can't talk through it because there's a wall in front of you.
Right. So something that I do whenever I date, I kind of like, it's kind of like a joke too. But if someone does something that's like questionable, I'll say it flat out. I'll be like, that's a red flag. But it's like a joke. So they kind of take it as a joke. And then sometimes they'll like ask me about it. And then I'm like, oh, well, like, I just don't like that. Or we just laugh about it. Yeah. So it's like they take it either or. So I think when you can see something that's like a red flag or that bothers you, I think you should just call it right as it is. Don't let it like sit, because then if you do, then it's gonna like explode later on. So
for sure.
I've learned that it's like just easier to just voice whatever's on your mind now, you know. And like there's a lot of the times whenever you are dating someone, like it's like, oh, you're trying to like play it cool and all, but like that eventually bites you in the ass in the end, because it's like, damn, I played it so cool that now it's eating me alive. So I mean, that's just what I do, like, as a little joke. I'm like, it's like a joke, but it's serious, so.
Well, I mean, but you also have, like, I guess just sitting down with you, like, you have that personality. Like, again, you're a creative director. You're the one pulling the strings. You're the one saying, hey, you do this, you go here, you get that, you whatever. You have that backbone, right? You have that personality type, but I feel like a lot of people don't, like, especially today, like, with the disconnect that's happening with people our age and younger. People just don't know how to communicate.
They really don't.
And that was one of the scary things that I thought about. Like, I had, when I first started this podcast, I had a family psychologist on real early on.
Oh, wow.
And I'll be honest, I should have read up a little bit more, should have done my homework a little bit more, because I was, the knowledge that was just getting slung at me, and I was like, I don't know how to respond to that. That's crazy. But one of the things that got confirmed for me was, because I was worried about it when the COVID pandemic was happening, and like the schools were shutting down, and a lot of homeschooling was going on, and like Zoom classes and all that nonsense. I was like, okay, like that might be passable for college or high school, but what about like middle school and elementary school? Like, that's when you figure out as a kid how to socialize. That's how you figure out how to make friends, how to deal with bullies.
Yeah.
You find out in a very natural way, like, what's socially acceptable. Because, I mean, people get that from their parents, sure, but your greatest audience for that are going to be your peers.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was one of the major hindrances that came out of COVID. You know what I mean? So then to tie back to what we were talking about, it's just interesting to see, like, because we're not going to see the major effects and stuff like that for like years down the line. So mix that with like this crap. And it's like,
oh gosh,
how are we? Like, you've seen WALL-E, right?
Disaster, yeah.
You've seen WALL-E, all the people that are floating around in the chairs, and they've got like the screen right here. Like, I feel like that's where we're going.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
I think so too. I'm not disagreeing. When I saw WALL-E, I was like, oh God. That movie was actually really heartfelt. It made me cry. But
no, I just think that the communication piece is super important. And so going into like the second issue, so if this was more of like a notebook journaling mindset, what was it going into number 2?
So as far as like this one, I really didn't care for people to read it. I mean, I would love for people to read it, but I wanted it to be like a really nice coffee table book. And it is something that I hold close to my heart. So like, if you ever get the chance to read it, by all means do, and do tell me how you feel about it. But the second one, I really wanted to focus more on letting the audience like dive into it and actually like read it. So like, I don't care if you read the first one, like it's cool, it's beautiful, whatever. But like the second one, like you should really read, because I really focused on the artist. I'm sure you see my face a lot in the first issue, but the second one, I really just wanted to focus on the artists that were featured in it and pretty much see what their side of, this one is about success.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you open the first page, I have a little diagram, and it's like success, and it's like how do you grow, you know, vulnerability and mental health, and they all tie into each other in order to be successful. So you have to be vulnerable in order to be successful, and in order to grow, you have to have a good mindset. So they all kind of tie into each other. I did that one in interview style. So everybody has their own definition of, I mean, they're all broken up into sections. The first section is growth. The second section is mental health and vulnerability. And then the last section is success. So in each section, I ask everybody, oh, like, how are you vulnerable? What does vulnerability mean to you? And like, how are you trying to better yourself every day? You know, like, what do you think about when you think about like prosperity? You know, as far as success, like, how do you define success in your own life and in your career? You know, and I didn't just do like music artists. I did an oil painting artist, Hippie Lick. He's up and coming, one of like honestly a really talented artist who I'm actually trying to tour with in 2024. That's
sweet.
Yeah. So, but I mean, tattoo artists are in there, and clothing design artists, and I think I have one photographer, and he's like a photographer, like graphic designer. His name is Jonah, but he has like his own section in the back. But each section has different photographers. So the first section, who shot the first section? Let me see. Let me take a little
feel
peek.
free to go through your own, magazine.
Let me take a peek. It's been a while. So the first section, Solita shot it. The third section, Aubrey shot it. And then in the last section, Sierra shot it. Sierra LaPhoto.
So I find it interesting that one of the things that you focus on was vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's something that's learned? Or is that something that people just have or they don't? Like,
I think it's something that's...
You hear a lot about like the type A, type B personalities.
Yeah.
But
I think it's vulnerability is something that's taught to be hidden.
Yes.
And I think especially more in our generation, you know, because I feel like our parents kind of like instill that, like, oh, you're not supposed to show emotion, you know, like we weren't raised to show emotion. So like you like, I mean, you could show emotion, but like it's not for the works, you know? So, I mean, but as far as like being vulnerable, I think vulnerability means like showing someone your art, you know, like when I was having a heart attack before I released the first magazine, I was like, oh my God, people are actually going to read what I wrote about like love and shit, you know? So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like a crazy thing for me because I was like, I'm being vulnerable to like 100 people that bought the magazine. So, but I think it's important, you know, because without vulnerability, you can't really grow. Like, how do you expect yourself to go on the up and up if you're not showing people how you are genuinely, your true self?
Well, that opens you up to taking criticism, mm-hmm. which is super important. And I think you're right. Like, yeah, no, you're really right. Holy fuck. Yeah, because if you don't learn how to be vulnerable and then take criticism properly, because I mean, you can just hear people talk shit all day.
Crumble.
You just throw it away. You're not going to get any better.
Mm-hmm.
A and B. You never. I think for sure. Like, that's something that I'm trying to learn right now. Is how do you diffuse like, okay, this is actual criticism. This person wants me to get better. Like they are pointing out flaws that I have, mm-hmm. and this is someone that's just talking shit.
Yeah.
Right. They have nothing better to do. They just want to talk shit, and then again, mostly online, and get their laughs off, and then move on from it. Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting thing because I was raised the same way, where it's very much like you don't show your emotion, you keep it to yourself. You maybe tell it to one or two people, but even then, you kind of hold it in. Mm-hmm. And then even today, like especially with men, and then men in relationships, mm-hmm. you know, it's like don't tell your partner really how you're feeling. If you're stressed out, you're mad, you deal with it, and you move on.
Yeah.
How do you feel about stuff like that? Do you encourage that men should be showing emotion like that? Or is it more of like, hey, you got to buck the fuck up, dude? Because honestly, I see both sides of the arguments.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I see both sides. I'll be honest.
Me too, yeah. I think so too. I think people should I think men should be able to tell anybody like how they're feeling, you know, whether that's like if they're mad or they're sad. But like, I mean, also on the other end when they're like buck up, I can tell like what's going on, you know? I don't know. I can read people really well. So it's like whenever I see like a man who's like really angry, I know like the underlining meaning behind that is that he's stressed.
Usually.
So, normally, yeah.
Yeah, usually. And because just one thing that I think about when I hear that is like, okay, because on the one hand, as a man, because I've been in a position where I've shown like true emotion on the negative side, mm-hmm. being very upset or being very angry, not towards my partner, but just in general, things that happen, whatever, and then that got used against me. Right. And I was like, all right, good to know.
Yeah.
That's a fucking, I'll take notes. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Thanks. That's a lesson learned. But then on the other hand, it's like if people don't learn how to express that kind of stuff, that can lead to severe mental health problems. And that's actually shown like on like the biochemistry level. Like if you have too much sitting serotonin, you're more likely to be overweight. You're more likely to have high blood pressure. You're more likely to have cancer. Mm-hmm. And it's stuff like that we're not really taught. Like that's not taught in school unless you're actually going to like get your degree and that kind of shit. Right. Like that's not like basics. Like something you learn in high school. Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand, on the more like buck up side of things, like hey, like get your shit together and you know take care of business. Yeah. You know if because I think like unfortunately, even pre-COVID, our country had a real big problem with mental health. Mm-hmm. Suicide rates are raising, and then school shootings are skyrocketing. unfortunately. And I look at you look at those demographic people, especially the school shooting stuff. It's like those aren't obviously mentally stable people, but those are individuals that act on their emotion. Mm-hmm. And if men are taught to act on their emotion, that's a lot more dangerous than people that are trained to, work through an emotion and then not act on it, mm-hmm. or act on it in a healthy manner. I hope I'm saying that right.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the more dangerous people are those who act on their emotions freely.
I think the healthiest way that you can act on your emotion is by voicing it. Yeah. For sure. I mean, as far as you can always go to the gym and rep it out. I feel that too. Like
that's what I do.
I'm the same way too sometimes, but also it's it doesn't hurt to talk about it, and it's nice to know that people are there for you, I mean, if anyone wanted to talk to me, I'd be down. I'm always down to listen to people. I think that's also a skill that I need to work on is hearing people better instead of talking over people.
Interesting. So hey, that is a skill I'm working on too. That's what I've had to work on. Mm-hmm. Doing this is shutting the fuck up, learning to listen.
I mean, you're doing a great job.
Well, it's funny because when I first started doing this, I thought I was doing a good job. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, I should just actively listen. And one of the things that I was taught as a kid on how to be polite and what actively listening is, not just with your body language, but saying oh yeah, oh I agree, oh yes, why do you stuff like that. But then I would re-listen to some of the episodes, and there's someone giving an explanation, going through their answer or going through a story or whatever it is, and then there's me going, yeah, uh-huh. Oh yeah, and that just makes it horrible for the listener. Yeah. It's just dude, shut up. But no, I think it is important to have a circle of people around you where you feel comfortable voicing shit like that. Mm-hmm. But then to be honest, I've had this conversation with a couple of my roommates. I feel like it's kind of going this way, but I would like eventually to see the stigma around seeing a therapist or seeing a psychologist, seeing that go away. Because for me, where that really helps me is, learning about emotion and learning how to talk things out. But just if you have a broken arm, mm-hmm. or you are sick or you have a broken leg, you don't just sit on the couch and say, oh, it's going to get better. No, you go to a fucking doctor. Yeah. if there's some things up top that you don't really know how to work through, or you don't know what's going on, or you just want some general direction, there are people who went to school to turn around and learn how to teach you about that shit. Mm-hmm. And I've just found that's and it's honestly, it's made me a little bit better at this. Not by a large margin, but it's it's helped me a lot with learning how to pick out context stuff, kind of you were saying with speaking out on your emotions and stuff like that. That's one thing I'd like to see on the mental health side of our country is let that stigma kind of wash out a little bit. Right. Because it can be helpful for a lot of people, I think, mm-hmm. especially post-COVID. People are, I don't know how the people that you spend time with or interact with on a daily basis, what they're like, but I know for me, I know people right now that are still figuring out how to deal with COVID in one way or another. For sure. You know what I mean? Well, obviously the pandemic itself, but it's just figuring out how to work through that mentally. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy going from being in a confined space for months on end, not having any kind of social interaction. Shame on me because I was bullshitting in the pandemic, not gonna lie. I was going to parties, so I was getting that little socialness out. But a lot of people just I still feel some people really don't know how to act, or they don't. I feel manners have kind of gone away just a little bit.
Ooh, in what way?
As far as I don't know, I don't know. I feel when we first were exposed to not being in lockdown, a lot of people were just kind of I don't know, in Spanish you would say sangron, more to themselves, and I don't know how to elaborate on that, but
closed off.
Yeah, closed off, but I feel now people are getting better and working out to be more of a people person again, Well,
that's also, I think, a more elevated problem here in Albuquerque just because of how violent it's gotten, certainly post-COVID. I'm shocked that half this place didn't burn to the ground during the actual because we had maybe one riot riot, and it didn't really even turn into a riot.
I do remember that, yeah, and
Like,
they like locked everybody down.
Yeah,
even more so than we were already in the lockdown. Yeah, I don't even know where my head was at that time, to be honest.
Well, I was stuck in my room. I remember that very clearly.
Me too.
Like, I didn't like, because I was very much an introvert, and I still kind of am. I'm learning to like. That's my big like thing that I'm kind of working on right now too. Is like how to not be so introverted, to be a little more like sociable and outward going. Because like you said, the networking part of it is how you make your art grow. Mm-hmm. And this, I wouldn't be on. This is actually episode 80.
Oh, awesome! Congrats.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. But I wouldn't be further than 20 episodes if it wasn't for networking. Mm-hmm. And I just remember being like halfway through the lockdowns. It's like, okay, this has got to end soon. Yeah. Like, I haven't played as many video games since high school. I can only do so many push-ups a day. Like, I need to go like out and do shit. Yeah. And it was just, I just can't. It's very strange that that's actually something that we lived through. I still think about that sometimes. You know what I mean? It's just Me too. It's so fucking strange. And honestly, like,
it's like it happened yesterday.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, like I was saying a little bit earlier, like a lot of art has come out of it. A lot of people were like, that's how I was. Like, I gotta fucking do something. Mm-hmm. Like, I gotta make, like, there is so much more to, like, all of this can end. All of this, like, civilized, like, we freaked out over, like, not me, but society flipped out over toilet paper.
Yeah, literally.
Like, I remember, because all that stuff started going down in, like, March.
People were fighting at the grocery stores.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, they were boxing over meat.
No, literally, like, it was Black Friday.
Yeah, like, I remember it was, like, maybe, like, 4 days before that stuff started happening, before, like, the lockdowns really started going in. I was like, I'm out of toilet paper. I need to go buy some. I just went, got the store, bought some, whatever, and then like 4 days later, it was like, there is no more toilet paper. And I stared at my 12-pack like,
damn, really came up.
I have gold.
Yeah, honestly, same. I didn't really experience any shortage. Thank God I didn't. But apparently the story behind the toilet paper is one of the first people who got COVID was like on the toilet and just ran out of toilet paper and he couldn't leave. So that's what made people go crazy because they're like, we're going to run out of toilet paper. But really the guy just ran out of toilet paper like himself.
He had some really bad Taco Bell and then got COVID.
Yeah, literally. And then he was like, fuck, I have no more toilet paper. So it's like, come on, like something had to have happened. So
see, I just thought it was just American discomfort. It was like, the shit's going down. I need toilet paper.
That's what someone told me. I don't know how accurate that is, but someone did tell me that a person who got COVID like ran out and like couldn't leave their house because they had COVID, and so they just didn't have toilet paper. So that sucks because not a lot of people use bidets here.
See, and I learned the magic of a bidet about a year ago, and I want to buy a new one because the last one broke.
Oh my gosh.
Those are fucking beautiful
Oh,
things.
You're fancy.
Well, because I didn't have one. A buddy of mine did. And I was like, what the fuck is this contraption on your toilet? Like, what the fuck? And it got explained to me, and I was like, wow. What? We have those here? That was a European thing.
Yeah, literally.
No, that's fucking hilarious. I don't know. It's just, like I said, like I really enjoy having people like you on the podcast that are doing their own art, that are passionate about it, and that are like, because again, I feel like Albuquerque doesn't have a whole lot left. And I think it's our generation that's going to save it, if it's anyone else. Mm-hmm. I've lost all faith in the government. I've lost all faith in the criminal justice system. And, you know, people, I think at the end of the day, they just want to feel safe, right? They want to go out and they want to do things. They want to have fun. They want to go to events like yours. Except February 11th is the next one.
Yes. That's the next one.
February 11th is the next one. It's Sister. I'll probably be there because I love finding things to do.
Good. Yeah, I'll send you the flyer.
Yes, I'd love to see it. And like I've become good friends with them. Like I love going out and seeing the Slums of Harvard play. Have you seen them play?
I haven't seen them live.
They are the shit.
Awesome. That's dope.
They just played 2 Fridays ago, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 Fridays ago at Launchpad.
Oh, okay.
And they blew the fucking roof off of that place.
That's dope.
Like, it was packed out to pretty much the end of the bar.
Fuck yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, they killed it. They're great people, but I think, and I was telling them this when I had them on last week, you know, they create an environment that's super safe. Mm-hmm. And seeing the pictures and the videos that I've seen from your events, you're very good at doing the same thing.
Thank you.
Like there was not a disappointed person in any of those pictures or videos. There was not a person that was like, "What the fuck am I doing here?" Like what's going on? It's like no, everyone was actively like engaged, having fun. Like I don't know. It's awesome to see people like you that are out here doing this kind of shit.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
So are you able to say when the third one is happening, or are you still kind of keeping that close to the chest?
Summertime.
Summertime.
Come summertime. July, end of July.
Sick.
So that's all I can say right now.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Please keep me updated. Where can people find you on social media, and then like yourself and the Silk Project stuff as well?
So my personal page is Rice Avenue. It's RYCE.avenue. And then the Silk Project page is the.silk project on Instagram. And then my website for Silk Project is silk-project.com.
Fuck yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming by.
Well, thank you for having me.
This has been a pleasure. It was awesome to meet you. These are seriously gorgeous. So
yeah, feel free to look through them. I mean, yeah, go for it.
Oh yeah, I will for sure. And then if you do end up doing a reprint, you guys should fucking pick these up because this is something you want to have. They look great. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, just thank you for coming, and thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye everybody.